gonna go live, and we are live.
It happened. All right.
Now let me stare at notes and ignore you.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So, hello and welcome to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Here on the Verhoeven Effect, at least for season 1, we are looking at network television shows because probably for the last decade, I have not watched network television.
Yeah.
Probably the last, maybe this is within the decade. But, well, like really the last show I can think of that I paid attention to was Lost.
Yeah.
And that ended in like 2010. And that was probably the last kind of network show that I like paid attention to, like, oh, week to week, let's watch Lost. I don't know, is that, are you in a similar boat with that, or do you think you have a later show than that?
No, I'm well, a lot of my life was based around shift work. And for the first 15 years of my working life, I worked like afternoons, midnight, stuff like that. So there was no like daily, nightly like television ritual.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of got out of it because even watching Lost, I just went down to the library and got the seasons. Like, so when Lost was actually going on, and it's like, well, the season's not out at the library yet, so don't tell me about it, because I would just watch it in one like continuous thing.
Yeah.
Which was so even then, like the weekly ritual has not been a part of my life since I was a teenager, and that's been quite a while ago. So.
Yeah. And even with like streaming networks, like I still don't pay attention to network shows, even though it's pretty easy to watch them if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And so maybe the closest show that I watched recently was when Hannibal, I believe it was an NBC show, came out. But that was kind of a special one because most network shows are like, it's 24, 25 episodes a year. It comes out pretty regular. They premiere at the same times, but Hannibal was a show that they put out in the summer, and it was like 13 episode seasons.
Okay.
And I think later seasons were even less. And I did pay attention to that for a bit, but even that, I wasn't like week to week. I was like, oh, I hear this is a good show. And I started when this, like the second season had finished, I started watching it. And then I don't think I even watched the fourth or the last season. Because like I was just holding on to it, I guess. I still haven't watched it because that's basically gets into Silence of the Lambs. But that was a really cool show. But also that was like a very unusual network show. Like it was for a network show is extremely violent. Now the actions weren't that violent, but the aftermath you witness was exceptionally violent.
Yeah, it makes it disturbing because it's almost like, wow, now we're gonna piece together whatever horror happened here. Yeah.
So here for this season, we are exploring 3 different network shows from vaguely different eras. 2 of them are the same. One of them is from the 80s.
Yeah.
We're covering NCIS New Orleans because I know of NCIS. I've seen episodes of NCIS. There's like 20 seasons, and it's like usually one of the most successful shows on television. Yeah. But I didn't want to dive into that one, so we chose one of the offshoots. And I've seen NCIS. I've seen episodes of NCIS Los Angeles, but I don't like. I know like Gibbs. Like I know Gibbs, right. And I know like the eccentric coroner, like hacker chick in NCIS.
Okay.
I know of her. I know but so we chose NCIS New Orleans because it's the one like I knew it existed, but I haven't seen one fucking episode of it. So we just threw that in here.
I just chose it because Scott Bakula was in it. And it's like, him from Enterprise, yeah,
and Quantum Leap,
yeah.
And then we have The Mentalist, which is a show like a lot of like what I consider, I mean, a lot of these are like police procedurals.
Yeah.
And they're built to last a long time. Like NCIS is still going. I think it's like on like 20 seasons or some shit like that.
Yeah. It's
And then like NCIS Los Angeles is like on its 12th season, and like this NCIS New Orleans, which feels like it came out yesterday to us because like we haven't been paying attention to it, has 7 fucking seasons, and this is the last one. Or not
here.
Yeah, it's being canceled or wrapping up this year. So while they close out New Orleans, they're opening up NCIS Hawaii. So NCIS continues.
It's gonna be there for you.
It vaguely reminds me of when CSI came out, and then you had CSI in Miami, and then you had CSI in New York, and then they just slowly dwindled away, and then they were like all gone. But then they came out, they tried to bring it back with CSI Cyber, which was terrible.
I didn't even know about that.
Oh yeah, 1 season, complete failure. And I don't like, and CSI like later seasons like sound interesting because they have like Elizabeth Shue and Ted Danson. It was like a completely different cast.
Huh.
Yeah. Which also like CSI when it came out, I didn't pay attention to until like I think it was on Spike TV. They just ran reruns of it, and then like you could basically watch a whole season in like 3 days watching the reruns on Spike TV because they just run like 4 episodes back to back in order. It's like, oh, okay, so that's how I didn't catch it when it was at the whole hype thing. I think the only time I actually like watched it live was there's the one episode that Quentin Tarantino directed. It's like, I'll watch that.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And then finally, the piece de resistance, I guess, we have Miami Vice.
Yes. Have we talked about The Mentalist yet?
Oh, no, I guess not. Yeah, The Mentalist, which is a show I hear it's... Okay, because, what I was explaining is that these shows are meant to last, like, a long time, usually. And usually by, like, I don't know, like, the 3rd season, they're not really worth paying attention to. They're just kind of there. Like, these shows are kind of like comfort for elderly people. And they're just there. Like, they're not good anymore, but, it's like, I like that character, and the show goes on.
He's a nice-looking man.
Mentalist, I hear, is a show that's worth going through all the seasons, which is surprising to me for a network show, because usually network shows, like, a lot of contracts are built around 7 seasons.
Okay.
So it's like, or at least 7 years. And so you do 7 seasons, and then you got to renegotiate your contract. And usually people don't want to be on a show for 15 years. And so they get out, and they're already making like $1 million an episode. So it doesn't matter. Or they're waiting like, oh, hell, if you want to pay me like $3 million an episode, I'll stay on.
Yeah.
And that stuff happens, but usually people want to get out after 7 years. And then you have like the weird tail end of a show where it's like the original cast is gone, and like the new cast either creates something new or it just never lives up to the original.
Yeah, you got like the one guy that's like the anchor.
Yeah,
$3 million an episode, then everyone around him changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a few times.
But I hear the Mentalist, it ran 7 seasons, and so I hear it's worth the watching the whole run. So I threw that in there because that's the one I was most intrigued by. Because like whenever someone like talks about a network show being really good, I am always very suspicious.
Yeah. Are you being paid for this?
But here on the Verhoeven effect, like what the Verhoeven effect is kind of like giving the benefit of the doubt. Like, we want to try as much as possible to try to like, did they create art or do something nice? Like, we're going to try to give them as much credit as we can, but we don't have to. It's just kind of like the Action Boys, another podcast that they like to say is like doing work for the movie. Like, so here we're going to do a little work for these television shows, but we don't have to. Like, we'll try to do a little bit of work, and then we'll kind of bring it back to reality. We'll see. Well, this is the first episode. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But so our first show is we have NCIS New Orleans, season 1, episode 1, Musician Heal Thyself. Original air date September 23rd, 2014 on CBS.
I learned on the show that NCIS stands for Naval Criminal Investigation Service.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I had no idea what the show was based on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, so what I vaguely know about this is like NCIS is technically a spinoff of JAG, which is Judge Advocate General, which is like Navy lawyers doing
Okay, I remember
lawyering
that
Navy.
show. I didn't know it was related to this one.
Yeah, I mean, I still basically don't know what NCIS is or how they're portrayed if it has any basis in reality. Like,
Yeah.
I like it felt to me it's like, oh, this is a way to have like a police procedural show, but then because it's around the military, then you can have like big action scenes with big military equipment every once in a while. That kind of seems like why that show makes sense. I don't know if this has any basis in reality whatsoever. I kind of doubt it, but I don't know.
Yeah, it could. I mean, it's a real organization.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes.
I looked it up as like, oh yeah, this is real. Okay, and it's mostly civilians, and they act essentially as law enforcement for.
Yeah, that's the thing I didn't know. I didn't know if it was like it seemed like a civilian organization, but I didn't know if like Navy personnel like are attached to it in some way, or if it's like when they get out of the Navy or whatever, then they can transfer into NCIS, or
I think
if
it's
they.
probably something like that. I didn't
Yeah.
really do much research. But
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll leave it a mystery. We got more. If we got more episodes, we got a whole season to go over.
it'd be something to fall into.
So the episode description for this is a case turns personal for Pride when the body of a petty officer is identified as a former gang member he once mentored. Meanwhile, Brody continues her search for the perfect place to call home in New Orleans. And that's credit from Internet Movie Database. That is their synopsis for this episode. We kind of want to be this like old school TV guide, like the way you used to watch television. You go through a TV guide and read the description and be like, okay, I'll watch that. That's how the old way this is how old people watch movies and television. So.
Yeah. This was, and this is also these are all going to be pilot episodes.
Yeah.
So this was like the pilot episode, and I know I've not read anything else about the series or anything. I don't want to know where it's going. I'll just watch it.
Showrunner is Gary Glasberg. That's the dude. I think he created JAG, and he's created all the NCISs, and so he is the showrunner for this season, because I think during the season or maybe after, he died shortly after.
Oh.
And then there is a new showrunner for the following seasons.
Okay.
So Mark Harmon, who is the star of the NCIS show, is an executive producer on this show, and I have no idea if he has any involvement whatsoever on this, or they just stamped his name on it and give him some money.
Yeah.
This episode is written by Jeffrey Lieber, Jonathan I. Kidd, and Sonia Winton. I don't know any of those people, but I'm just going to go through this, and maybe like the further on we go through the show, maybe we'll like, oh, that guy.
Oh, okay.
Directed by Michael Zinberg.
Okay.
Okay, so now we can get into the show. I don't know. Do you have any immediate Well, I guess something they do in the regular NCIS is they have like when you have like a surprise lead out, like something surprising happens, and then you cut to commercial. And then in NCIS, they do this thing where like it freeze frames. There's like this pop sound that happens, and then like the color fades away. And for this show, they do kind of a different thing where it's like it does something similar, but like the color gets very like vibrant.
Yeah, it's saturated almost.
Yeah, but it's very colorful. So that's like the way they differentiate. And then some of the like the snaps, especially when they come back for commercial, are like premonitions of like stuff that'll happen later on in the show. Although sometimes, like one time you see like Scott Bakula's on the ground and he's like covering two kids, like what the hell's that about? But then there's one where it's just Scott Bakula laughing. It's like that gives no premonition. Like I'm waiting to see this part where Scott Bakula laughs. I don't know. But that's one of their stylistic choices.
Yes, and this show opens with some guys working on a shrimp boat on a dock.
Yeah,
and they're dumping all this shrimp into bins, and there's this woman who's like the girlfriend of the captain of the ship, and she's like looking at guys in a suggestive way. And of course, she just has her clothes painted on, so it's just like a revealing outfit. two guys are talking, and he's like, "Yeah, it's trouble, man. Don't mess with her." And then the captain of the boat or whoever this guy is, he comes down and he's just some muscle bound idiot. He's like, "Who's been sleeping with her?" Immediately it just jumps right into this, and so a fight ensues, and the guy gets shoved into a back, kind of shoved into this plastic bin full of shrimp, and the bin breaks open, the shrimp spills out, and then everyone's kind of looking shocked, but it doesn't show you what fell out.
Yeah.
And then the one guy points, it's like, look, and it's a person's leg.
Yeah.
Um,
This is, I'd say that
the intro.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, they have that song that's like boom, 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 boom. Hey, hey.
John Hooker song, yeah.
Which is, that's a great choice. That's a great
Yeah.
choice.
Well, if your show's called NCIS New Orleans, that's the kind of music and the vibe you're setting up. And I don't know anything about the culture of New Orleans, and all I have to do is ask Dad. He grew up around there, but I never have. So it's like, yeah, that's. So I don't know. I don't know anything that they're getting right or wrong about.
Yeah.
I get the vibe that
it is shot there. There's that at least.
Good. Yeah. Well, that Katrina money to shoot movies and TV shows down there. That's been for a long time. And it's a cool looking place too.
Yeah.
Nowhere else in America looks like that. So.
This is a pretty standard like opening for any kind of police. I mean, this is like Law and Order like 101 stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like you have the guys who find the body and then they're like never in the show, but you just have like they found the body, so or at least a part of the body.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the end I believe we come back from the credits and we have Scott Bakula walking into the NCIS headquarters, which is basically just a converted old building, which I really love because like I've been in places like that where it's like, here's this old military installation, and like we're not going to build a new building for you. You're just going to use this one you have. Right. And it's like probably built in like the World War I, probably still has asbestos in it. It's like, and then you just got to drill TVs in the wall. And it was kind of interesting where he's talking to the coroner through this TV because like I think on like regular NCIS, it's like the coroner's always like downstairs, but they still talk through a TV. Where I think here it's like probably the coroner's office is in a different building completely. I don't know for sure, but it's probably.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like. It seems like it's like, oh, we got to go see the body, and it's okay. Well, we'll eat on the way, So they're obviously going somewhere.
Yeah. And I did love the bit, where Scott Bakula is like, there's the kitchen, and he's like cooking for his agents.
Yeah.
So that's a fun little quirk. It's like, he's the head of it, but he's like cooking for people and stuff. And then
that's the police station, and he's living there for some reason.
Yeah. I don't know what that's about. That's kind of interesting.
Because he talks about a wife, but you never see or hear him.
I believe they cut to her at some point where he's like on the phone with his daughter, and they cut to his wife, I think, at some point.
Oh, did they? Okay, I thought he was just talking to his daughter on the phone.
I thought they like cut to his wife at some point, like when he's talking to that politician guy or something, and like calls her up or something.
Yeah, that could be. Could have forgot it. I watched the network TV today.
Yeah, I don't know if he was like living there for like because there's marital strife, or if he's living there just because like he's on the case and that's what he does. Like he just lives there.
Yeah.
But it's like in regular NCIS, it's like there's like a whole like office of people. It's like with anything, it's like here's the people that do the job, and here's the thousands of people that are just admin behind these people. Yeah. And then here it's just the people. Like you don't see admin or any of that stuff. And I guess in real life, like the NCIS in New Orleans is incredibly small. It's like they have like an office and there's 2 agents. So this is in line with the real NCIS. Like that's how it comes out of New Orleans, and they're just like kind of report to DC or whatever. So
yeah, they one thing I noticed about this show is they use a lot of technology, where it's like because he's talking to the lady he's talking to CC Pounder, the
CCH Pounder,
CCH Pounder, the coroner's thing, but it's always like he's almost like saying commands to things. It's like, oh, is this an homage to Star Trek where they're using all these TV screens because they have these very sophisticated scanning devices and ways to figure that, or it's always, and it's probably done for the audience's sake. It's like, look at this, and this is why this is happening, and it's like, yeah, I bet you law enforcement wishes they had resources. Like, federal law enforcement does. I don't know.
Yeah,
it seems like there's a lot of, they're very tech heavy in this, and kind of using things that are, I mean, yeah, talking to someone over a TV now or over a phone using something is in 2021 is not that remarkable, but in 2014 that would be kind of an expensive option.
yeah. Well,
they are using flip phones a lot too, so it's like. Okay.
Well, I think probably the reason they use the TV is just it's cinematically more interesting than them just talking on a phone.
Yeah, it could be, but there's a few times when he yells out, "Yes, connect me to her," and then boom, the camera's in the coroner's room.
Yeah,
it's like, okay.
So I think pretty much like Pride pretty instantly, because there's a Navy officer that comes by and it's like, hey, your protege has gone AWOL. Or UA, unauthorized absence, and they kind of joke about it, and then like, maybe he's fine. He just found a woman. And he's drunk somewhere. It's like, it's probably okay. And then, they find the missing sailor's foot, and the only reason they know it's a sailor is because his boot. It's like, a sailor, that's a sailor's boot or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he immediately puts it together. It's like, oh god, this is probably him. So. And that's when they put it together, and then they just find the body. I can't remember. They don't show them discovering it. They just kind of mention it's being discovered.
Well, the weird thing was the leg was thrown in the river.
Yeah,
and the body was buried somewhere in plastic. And it's like, well, who does that? Described. They came up with some weird communication or some weird graphic of a skeleton fighting an axe, and it's like, this is how he lost his leg, and it's like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, that was pretty stupid, but because there's a part where like the axe like takes a swing back before it swings forward, and they put the little like swing sound in it. It's like, why would he do that? Why would the guy putting the simulation together put that in there? But whatever. It's for the audience. It's like, it's fun. I've seen dumber things on network television, including NCIS doing it. But then they find the body, and then there's like a gang tattoo on him, and like when he was a troubled youth, they're like, oh no, did he join back with the gang? And then that leads them on to investigating like the local gangs to see if there's like, if one of the other, either the gang he used to be affiliated with killed him as like some sort of tactic to keep in line the younger gang members, like, yes, you don't ever leave or we'll kill you when you're older or whatever.
Yeah, or dark.
or if it was a rival gang that killed him just because. And so but before that they go to like where he worked at, which was like a civilian port, but he was like a Navy attaché or something like that.
Yeah.
And so they go to his dock boss, and he's eating ice. And like they also mentioned something before, like that they found a tooth that wasn't his, and so like somebody's missing a tooth, and when I see that guy eating the ice, it's like, I bet he did it.
Yeah, see, this is one of the problems I had with this show. is like immediately they find a leg, the naval officer meets with Scott Bakula or Pride, and it's like, one of the kid you pulled out of the, you helped out of the gang life or whatever, he's missing. So immediately it's like, okay, they pulled that. It's got to be that kid, because we're doing a one episode. We're gonna wrap this up in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's okay. I know that's gonna happen. And the guy's eating ice. It's like, well, there's the dude with the tooth. And then where's the troubled dad? Oh, yeah, he's a musician. And
well, yeah, we've got food and music already, so it's already proven that it's New Orleans, right?
We knew the title where it was.
Yeah, see, I have no idea like how authentic this is, or if it's just for people who like think they know what New Orleans is, and this is just like an artifice that like, that's fine, that's New Orleans.
Yeah, it's like it's Bourbon Street and showing your boobs and beads, right? That's the whole culture. And people speak a kind of a weird French. Yeah.
Oh man, like yeah. Did you want to comment on like the quality or not quality of the Creole accent in this show?
Oh yeah, the Scott Bakula fading in and out of the Chicago to New Orleans accent. It's like what is this?
Now here's the thing. Like I have no idea what's an authentic New Orleans accent or not, but here's the funny thing about a New Orleans accent. Whether it's authentic or not, it sounds fake.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things. Like, is that a put on? Because when everyone wants to sound dumb in America, we just do a put up of us like a Southern accent.
Yeah.
Or if they want to make fun of boring people from the Midwest, they'll do like that real straight talking. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna milk the cows. That's all that kind of weird. Yeah. Or then we have the New York, Sopranos talk. But yeah, it's like it's always an affectation, but this always was an affectation, and it faded in and out with his range of emotion. Like when he was real emotional, all of a sudden it's like, is this guy from the swamp? And then but when he's talking like in technical terms, it sounds like me and you. It's like, what's... Yeah. So yeah, and I suppose that's hard to do, and
and this is the first episode, so maybe it like completely disappears by the second episode. But
I don't know if they're doing dialect coaches on networks.
No.
So it's just like, well, you got to make this work, okay.
But the Scott Bakula character, I guess they make him more like empathetic and emotional, and that's easy for Scott Bakula to do. But that's a pretty large departure from like the Gibbs from the regular NCIS, who's basically emotionless, and there's like occasionally there's like episodes where he's like working on a boat at the end of the episode and he's like talking to someone's daughter, and it's like, oh, he does have emotions, he just doesn't bring them to work.
or he's got some quirky thing that passes for like characters development. It's like, no, it's okay. Yeah, Grady builds wooden ships at home. Cool.
But here, like, they try to build this whole thing about like this whole NCIS group being a family, and so like they like if you work back with all the stuff they put together, they are doing that. So that is fun and different, I guess. So
yeah.
But
the characters are, because we got like his right hand man, LaSalle. he's like right under Dwayne Pride. His middle name's Cassius. That's cool. And then you got the lady Meredith Brody from Detroit.
Yeah.
Who doesn't know, is like confused about gangs and stuff. It's like, wait a minute, what?
Well, no,
I'm from Detroit.
Yeah, when she said she didn't know about Bloods and Crips, that was she was being intentionally.
No, but I knew that one was a joke.
Yeah.
Earlier she said something. And because they're always making fun of her because she's like their Midwest character. They even say that. And then they have the nerd guy.
Yeah.
Who's like
the coroner's assistant or something.
Yeah, and computer expert and coroner's assistant.
Yeah.
And then they got CCH Pounder.
Yeah.
As the
which
a long time.
Yeah, last time I saw her was like the Shield, but
yeah, it's been a while.
I used to not like know how, like, do you pronounce the letters or is it like Chech Pounder? And then I found out what it is. Like, so she has like two middle names, and so it was like it's like Carolyn Kristen, like Heather Pounder or something like that. And then she just made it CCH Pounder, because I guess when she was initially getting into acting, when like it was a feminine name, like people wouldn't cast her. But if it was CCH Pounder, they didn't know who they were calling in, but they'd call her in but they have no idea when she was coming in for a role, and she got more roles because of that, because they didn't know what her gender was.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, she's a great actor. So
yeah, she's from British Guiana too. She was raised in the UK and then came here at 18 to be an actress. Kind of got an interesting backstory.
And then there's a slight crossover here, because she's examining the body and she's looking at the tattoo, and the tattoo is like doing weird stuff. It's like wearing away for some reason.
Yeah.
And then she connects it with some case in DC, and so they have a crossover with the coroner from NCIS makes an appearance on a TV here for NCIS New Orleans. So that's their crossover for this episode.
Yeah, there was also 2 prequel episodes to this that introduced all these characters.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Another NCIS. Yeah, it was
Oh, was it like on regular NCIS? And
yeah,
they
yeah.
okay,
They
yeah.
introduced Scott Bakula and all these people as the people from the New Orleans.
Okay, I did not watch that.
No, and there's no reason to. It's just doing this show. So.
But the tattoo thing was like kind of clever, where it's like oh, it was tattooed post mortem, and so it's like somebody's trying to throw us off the trail. So I guess that was kind of clever.
Yeah, I mean, there's always good science in these police procedurals. It's like, because if you put a tattoo on after somebody dies, it just washes away eventually, because there's nothing for the ink to bond to, because there's no blood flow or anything. And so that's how they explained it in the episode.
I have no idea if that's true or not. That seems kind of like,
it doesn't matter. It's like, man, maybe it is. But
yeah.
It didn't take me out of the show. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be their evidence.
Well, then they have the thing where they talk about like how like, and this also I have no idea if it's true or not. They were talking about how like ink isn't regulated by the FDA, so like
you can trace it.
Yeah.
Because everyone doesn't have to make it to the same standard or something.
Yeah, something like that.
If that's true, but
no, that's sad. But it seemed interesting for the mystery of the show. So
yes,
you also have like the evil politician shows up, who starts up like a gang task force, and then like are we immediately supposed to pick up on that he's an evil politician and like he's doing this as like some sort of smoke screen?
Yeah, my first impression was that he's just like a pain in the ass mayor.
Yeah,
like, I want to clean up these streets, and the main character is like, no, you got to understand people and go get to know them. And I thought it was that, but then by the end of it, it's like, oh no, this guy was working with the people importing heroin on. It's like, this guy's a really bad guy, and he wants to make New Orleans an even bigger hellhole. So yeah, but we'll see where that goes.
But yeah, they basically figured out it's a dock worker, and they go back to him, and then like, can you get this for us? And then he goes on the run, and they have a slight change. I figured like the first episode they'd have like more action, but this is kind of like except for like the drive by, this is like the biggest action moment of the show, and it's really just a light chase into a car. It's not.
Yeah, it's a little anticlimactic.
Yeah,
like he didn't go to his office and get a gun and start shooting at him or something. It would have been for his as much as he didn't want to be interrogated. But it's like, hey, come on, let's bang this out. We got 6 more to shoot.
And then they have like the interrogation. That's where you get the idea that it's the politician is somewhere behind it, because he's not giving up names. He's like, I can't tell you that. Like, I'll be dead if I tell you that. And then like Brody says something about like, yeah, I can't wait to get like a lemonade and a beignet. And it's like, this is for tourists, isn't it? Like that's not that what. But also because I guess she's not local, maybe that's lame for her to say. Like that is like how it's supposed to be taken, that is lame because she's not a local person, so she would say lame stuff like that.
Yeah, it could be.
I also didn't understand the one part where they're looking over evidence and they're like sitting out like on a table in the middle of nowhere and like, hey, do you want to order dessert? And there doesn't seem to be a restaurant within miles. It's like, where are they ordering this from? And I'm guessing that
he pulled out his phone right at
yeah. So I assumed it was like some like.
But initially, I was thinking the same thing. Like, this is a weird restaurant with like one table out in the middle of some humid like area. But I guess that was the house she picked.
Oh, okay.
Because this was one of the themes in this show was that Meredith Brody needed a house because the place she was living, she said, they're shooting off firecrackers all night and stuff, and it's like, yeah, those are optimistically firecrackers. Like, oh, you mean they're shooting guns? Yes, New Orleans. Yeah.
Well, also there was a thing that like Pride like was really interested like where she lived, because like where you live is what it says about you, so you need to pick the right place to live, and so. I have no idea if that's true, but that's just kind of fun color, I guess. And I didn't know if like, I wonder if they're trying to make it a big surprise. It wouldn't be a surprise, but like, because she has a short haircut and stuff, like, is she just going to be a lesbian and that's supposed to be a surprise? It's like, I have no idea, but I'm guessing there.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't think about that at all. There was always going to be this tension between LaSalle and her, this sexual tension.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, that could be that's I don't know. I never know anymore. Never know anymore what's going on. So,
And then there's like kind of a little showdown at the end between Pride and the politician, where
yeah.
he's like, yeah, I always get my person, you know me. And then, yeah, it's Steven Weber as Douglas Hamilton as the evil politician.
Right. Yeah. For some reason, when I think of New Orleans, I always think of like Jim Garrison. Like that's
Oh
the
yeah,
guy that comes to mind for me, and the real Jim Garrison, and the one that
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner played in JFK. But the real Jim Garrison was kind of a weird dude like that too. Because I believe there's been a crime committed right here in New Orleans. And I'm not doing that accent any justice. New Orleans is like it's like a southern accent for me. But yeah.
About over, I guess I'm optimistic of the show. I think it does some things well, where it's like very small and like like they kind of make it this family group instead. So that's kind of interesting. But it is probably the poorest showing of the shows we watched. But this is the pilot. It just kind of seems generic at the time. But maybe maybe they'll find their way. I mean, this did get 7 seasons, so had to work to some point.
Yeah, I guess it made the least impression on me of all the things we watched.
Yeah.
And there's nothing specifically wrong with it. It's just like, all those nights working midnights, I didn't really miss a lot, did I? It's just like there's no hole in my life from not seeing this. But we'll see. It's got time.
But also, I was gonna save this analogy for maybe for all of them, but like, I guess I'll use it here. But I was using the analogy of that, like, these shows are like jumbo jets. Like they're gonna take a lot of people with them, but they need a long runway to take off. So these shows their character development is very slight. So like with a movie, you'd have like throughout 2 hours, you'd have like this whole catharsis and character evolution and stuff like that. But for a television show where you're expecting to have like 7 years, like, it's very thin character development for every show. And maybe by the end of the season, you might get a little character development. But it's a police procedural, so like it's mostly about like the crime that's happened and then a little bit about the people. And this episode it seems to be less about the crime and more about the people that are investigating it. So
yeah, when it actually came to the crime, like they seem to want to touch some real like emotional touchstones.
Yeah,
about like a father who didn't know his son, and and the main character saying, yeah, he was like the son I never had. It's like, well, okay, we're hitting on a lot of points, but then it all just seemed to be like wrapped up. And it's like, oh, okay, this network TV.
Yeah. Scott Bakula gets to play in with the jazz band on the piano.
Yeah,
it's like
let's have fun. Your kid's dead. Da, 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 da. And the saints come marching in. It's like, okay, good. That's you're doing it. Got 200 hours of character development to go. If you're lucky.
So the second show,
that was NCIS New Orleans. Like I said, I learned what NCIS stood for.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know. That's how unprepared I was.
We learned a little about the NCIS and the Gone World, but that was completely different.
Yeah, that's like a whole like if it was something like that, that's what was missing.
Just looking at Scott Bakula, like, where's the spaceship to go to the dark side of the moon so we can go time travel?
Yeah, where's Secret NASA, Scott? And what about the trees and where the Buddhists are crucified upside down? Where's that? That's like I was tuning in for this. Oh, and the saints go more. It's like, oh. So for our next one, we watched the Mentalist. Started in 2008 and ended in 2015. And I think for shows that I watched for this episode, this was the most interesting to me.
Yep.
Not that Miami Vice, but I already know Miami Vice. So
yeah.
I'm like, okay,
it's a known quality.
I know what I've got to see here. But this one, the main character is an interesting dude.
Yes, he's the most complex character out of
Yeah,
every.
yeah. Everyone else is a cardboard cutout of cop and bad guy.
But yeah, let me do the little rundown real quick. Unless you were going to go through. Okay, so
No.
this this season 1, episode 1. It's just the episode is just called Pilot. So
Yep.
original air date September 23rd, 2008. The episode description is: a double murder seems to be the work of a notorious serial killer named Red John, but CBI consultant Patrick Jane thinks it's the work of a copycat. So that is again Internet Movie Database. Showrunner is Bruno Heller. This episode was written by Bruno Heller and directed by David Nutter.
Nope. Bruno Heller of Rome, HBO fame.
Yes.
I don't know if we've ever seen if anyone out there has seen the TV show Rome or hasn't, you should watch it because it's wild. It's cool. I mean, don't watch it with the kids around, but it's like, oh, they're doing this. All right. So it was interesting that this was like his next thing. So yeah, on The Mentalist, we have a guy, Patrick Jane, who has some kind of super observational capability.
Yeah.
And he was.
He's basically like kind of like Sherlock Holmes, but different.
Yeah.
If Sherlock Holmes as a con artist.
Sherlock Holmes was a dark character, but he was always like purely interested in like, we're going to figure out what's happening and I'm going to use unconventional means, where this guy, like I said, this is another one. I haven't read anything about it. I don't want to know because I'm trying to watch them. But this guy seems to have a very strange set of skills.
Yeah.
For a guy who was like a TV psychic. And, I don't know if that's because of his super observational stuff or something he learned in his past, because he seems to have like criminal skills too, like pickpocketing and stuff. And okay, well, I don't know where's this. And he's very morally ambivalent too.
Yeah.
Like the ends always justify the means.
Yeah. Some of the times when he figures things out, it seems to be they have violent conclusions. And it seems like he maybe wanted that because that would be the most interesting thing to happen. So he is, even though he is the hero of the show, he is kind of an anti-hero.
Yeah, it's like, well, let's talk about the first thing that happened. Just a cold open to the series.
Yeah, this is the introduction to the character.
It's the introduction to the character and the start of the show. We got a family, husband and wife, and their daughter was killed. And then they think
they're giving a press conference as they're taking the neighbor kid and putting him to custody for possibly killing his daughter.
And of course, cameras are right up in this kid's face, like all kinds of stuff that's like, these are TV tropes. That doesn't happen like that anymore. Maybe. And like
you kind of get like the point of view of the was it Patrick Jane? It's the character.
Patrick Jane, yeah.
And like, and some of the details they give you like aren't necessary, but maybe I don't know, because there's one thing where he's like he's watching the coroner or the ambulance drivers take away the body, and he notices a tattoo, which I don't think has any relevance right now in this episode, or maybe it just shows off that he notices details. I have not. That'd be amazing if that has like some weird callback that this tattoo has. But for this episode, I don't think that tattoo has a callback. But we'll see.
Well, and then we have the husband and wife giving a press conference, like doing a presser, and the wife is doing like obviously overacting, very like, I don't want my husband to touch me. I don't want him to hold my hands. Like even we can pick up on this. Yeah. Like we're with Patrick Jane on this. Like we see something's wrong here with the husband and the wife. And then he goes into their house while this press conference is going on, makes himself a sandwich and 2 cups of tea, just because that's what he does. He's this kind of guy. And then he looks through pictures of like the daughter sitting on the dad's lap, obviously uncomfortable. And I know right away it's like, okay, this is going to get ugly. It's like, oh, the dad killed her because he was sleeping with his daughter or something. And the wife seems to know about it. And then he has a conversation with the wife where he uses all his observational skills to weed out the fact that, this guy was sleeping with your daughter, and it was his daughter, and so he confronts. He
gets the thing out of her is like, when your husband's lying, don't you?
Yeah.
And she's like, yes, and that's a key point, because then when he confronts the husband, that's
Yeah, he confronts the husband, basically straight up asks her, "Are you having sex with your daughter?" And of course, he's like looking at the ground, like, "No," obviously like lying.
Yeah, as soon as he says that, she just starts like basically crying, like, "Oh my god, he did it!"
Yeah, she believes she's totally bought in, and she walks into the other room, gets a gun, like comes back and shoots the husband to death, shoots him in the chest, and Patrick Jane just kind of steps out of the way because he knows she's going to do this. And then all the other cops are coming in and they're like, "What's going on?" They're pointing guns around and stuff.
Yeah, they're almost accusing him at first.
Like, what did you do to her? How'd you make her do this? And he's just like completely like nonplussed about, like, well, look what he did.
What? No, he goes, "It's not as bad as it looks."
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
No, it's actually fucking worse.
Yeah, it's like this girl's daughter's dead. Now she's going to go to prison the rest of her life, or not. I don't know. Let her out. That's mitigating circumstances, maybe, but still, it's like what it says about this character is like, oh, this guy's just there's no like moral compass with this guy. There's just like,
I mean,
right.
He is searching a truth. He is searching for justice, but he also has no morals, which makes this character fascinating. Because it's hard to trust him. Because it's like, well, he's right, but he's also, the way he goes about it is like kind of terrifying.
Yeah, it's always, everything's always done for another purpose. It's like, oh, is he being nice to this guy? Is he talking to this guy? Is it,
Yes, he's very duplicitous. That's
yeah. And nobody really likes him because when he turns out to be right, and I'm not going to do a breakdown of the whole episode because it's actually kind of a complicated story. There's a lot of things going on, and but it's like even when he's right the second time, because the only other character in this that you know anything about is the what's her name? I lost the characters. Cast in characters.
Was it Teresa Lisbon? Is that
Teresa Lisbon, who's the head of the CBI, which is like California's version of the FBI.
Yeah.
Criminal division or whatever, however that works.
It's a fictional like FBI, not FBI.
Yeah. Well, some states do have like a separate like. That's what like the Texas Rangers is technically like Bureau of Investigation, and then Ohio and Oklahoma have something like it, but it's always for murders that cross multiple counties.
Yeah,
they're like a task force, but a lot of states they have the state police, which is
it's not necessarily explored here, but I'm interested is like what kind of like mythos will go into the CBI because I imagine there will be one.
Oh yeah. But the only other character you really know a lot about in this is Teresa Lisbon, who's kind of like the grumpy boss.
Yeah.
Who's just a cop who wants to do cop stuff because Patrick Jane is a consultant, an outside consultant with the CBI. He just helps them on cases. He's not a law enforcement. He doesn't have a gun. Choice is an interesting choice. It's like, okay, because he gets guns pulled on him a few times. And then you have, the two. You have the Asian cop, and then the big like football player cop.
Yeah.
And then you've got the young lady, who's apparently, is kind of religious and stuff, and she has like moral arguments with Thomas Jane about
Yeah. That was weird. I do when that conversation happens, I just immediately became suspicious of her. Like, this is going to be a problem later down the line.
This God stuff's really going to screw something up.
Yeah, because you're in like a field of science, but it's like, let's go to feelings, and I believe in God. That's not going to be our problem.
Yeah.
But we come back from the credits, and there is there's like some pro golfer, and they come upon the body of his wife and some doctor. And then so the CBI gets called in to investigate, and Patrick Jane shows up, and he's supposed to be on like a 2-week leave, but he just shows up anyway. I'm not sure because so this is where you get a little bit of glimpse into there's like a blood painted smiley face on the wall, And then this is the serial killer they talk about named Red John, which is probably, I guess, I'm not sure if they mentioned it this time, but he must have found out. Oh, wait, no, the football guy tells him who is it? I can't pick up on his picture. One of the agents tells him, and then so that's why he shows up here when he's not supposed to. And then he picks up pretty. They have some guy come in there. He's like examining the scene and like trying to recreate it for them. And then like Patrick Jane is like, he's full of shit. That's not what happened. Like, I know Red John. This isn't Red John.
Yeah, he did have kind of an interesting. Yeah, he had a run-in because this guy was being way too excited about describing this crime scene where someone had their head smashed in with a golf club, and the lady had been like put on a bed, basically cut open and tortured. And it's like, yeah, that's that was interesting because everyone hated that guy, and it's like, oh, I hope our main character is going to make a cutting remark to it.
But then there's then they go to like the one guy's practice to like figure things out there, and then they bring in another doctor character, and then for some reason Patrick Jane is like, I need some sleeping pills. Like when trying to see if he's sussed them out, it's like, is this doctor going to do illicit things? And they just kind of hold on. You don't know what's going on there. You're left to like hold on to it.
Yeah.
And then the regular investigation kind of starts vying towards like the brother did it or something. And there's kind of a back and forth there. And there's a fun little moment where I think it's Agent Cho. He's like confronting the golfer guy, and because like they arrested his brother. And he tells him like, well, he's been banging your wife like it's a church bell or something like that. It's like,
yeah, some interesting dialogue.
It's like, oh wow, that's pretty. And like, because Agent Cho is like pretty emotionless, and like, but he has like these little quips that just come out of nowhere, and so he's pretty funny.
Yeah,
because he's very serious, but occasionally he'll throw some jokes in. So then that kind of like leads him off the trail again. And then meanwhile, like Patrick Jane like stays up for like 24 hours and you don't know why. You see him like writing in a diary and it's like, what's that about?
And writing weird symbols and stuff. And
then Lisbon picks up on that he's been up for 24 hours and she calls up the doctor to get him sleeping pills, but he has to go talk to the doctor first. I imagine this is a psychiatrist, right?
I would assume. Well, yeah, I probably would assume so. He didn't seem to be wearing a coat and have like a check-in area, so this is probably like $5.
Yeah, it's psychiatrist. What's the one that can prescribe medicine? Is it psychiatrist?
Psychiatrist, yeah. Psychiatrists are medical doctors with.
And then psychologists. Okay, yeah, psychiatrist, okay, yeah, no.
Yeah.
I was confused there.
They're both doctors, but one is a medical doctor.
Yeah, one can prescribe medication. So Patrick Jane goes and basically gives tells him what's wrong with him, and then like the doctor immediately, kind of like at the end of it, it's like, well, that was all a lie.
Yeah. That's the same thing that happened to Johnny Cash. Really?
But he does make the observation that you are in real pain, and then I think I can't remember the flashbacks, but you get some flashbacks where you see him being like what do they call that? A medium or what? Yeah, it's sort of like crossing over with. Medium.
Yeah,
yeah, and like he has his own show, and he clearly like was very successful, and you see him just like basically conning people.
Yeah.
And then at some point he is consulted by they talk of he's getting interviewed by hosts and they're talking about he's consulting with this serial killer Red John case, and he makes some comment about Red John, and then Red John kills his wife and his daughter and leaves the trademark, and so that you can that's where like, okay, this is why this guy is upset. He's not just casually doing this for fun. There is an agenda for him. Like, he needs to catch Red John.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll not get to the end yet, but and then they go to dinner and they have some weird stuff with the team.
Yeah.
And then like somebody slides a note underneath his door that's saying it's Red John. And then he chases it, but he doesn't catch him. And then at some point he goes back to the doctor's office. I can't remember. Maybe that's the meeting he goes to get the pills. And then that's where he starts to pick up on something about the doctor. And he's like, it's like, we think he had a diary, but I don't know. And then he basically like tricks the doctor into turning his partner's doctor's office over looking for a diary. And then you find out, then he basically pretends to find the diary. It's like, oh, it's right here. We got it. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. Like, we'll look into this. And like that whole thing he made up himself. Like that he spent all night writing in this diary to try to make it look convincing at a distance.
Yeah.
And then basically the doctor says he's not going to confess, and then he just goes and does the supervillain thing of confessing exactly what happened. It's like, there's no evidence here. And it's really weird because like he's like supporting kids in Africa, but he's also like embezzling, and it's like it's this interesting thing where he's like, I need to kill these people because then that saves children in Africa. So it's like 2 lives is nothing compared to the thousands of lives I'm saying. It's kind of a weird MO to murder somebody for.
Yeah, well, it's because he wanted to be the good guy and embezzle money, and his partner wasn't having it. So.
Yeah.
Well, it was all basically these people all died because, or not all the people, but the people that died in this episode all died so this guy could embezzle money. Essentially, the doctor who was not even one of the main suspects. But yeah, so it was. This one, this is the.
Yeah, I like when the doctor pulls a gun on him and then he eventually like runs away because he like convinces the doctor that he took the bullets out of the gun, but it's an obvious ruse. And then he runs out, and then like at some point he like made a call to have like backup, and like when he's running out of the building, he's like, "Get your gun out! He has a gun!" That was a fun little moment because they points out like, yeah, he's a consultant, he doesn't have a gun, he can't defend himself. But also like as another thing where it's like, this is what he wanted. He wanted this confrontation to happen. He made it happen.
Yeah, he has a way of manipulating people that's sometimes subtle and sometimes not. Sometimes it's like, oh, this guy's obviously, you can't always see where it's going. I knew where it was going with the doctor because I knew when he like went in for a hug after he got the prescription. It's like, okay, yeah, he's picking his pocket.
Yeah.
Because the doctor made a show of swiping the ID card and then pressing the button, and then it's like, okay, yeah, he has his card and he's going to come back. And so like I wasn't surprised by any of that, but the way it ended was fun.
Yeah.
And so I actually was pretty engaged with this show for the first time out. It seems like it could be a darker, having a darker, deeper thing going on.
Yeah, I was most kind of like just looking forward to this because there's the very complex character, and I like. Yeah, it was just the most interesting. Let's see. Some of the notes I have is like sometimes they deny physical evidence in favor of complex innuendo.
Yeah,
where he's just kind of picking things out, putting things together, and like for the audience, it's fun if he's always right. But that's not necessarily like great for like investigative purposes. Like we're not necessarily gathering evidence. We're just like looking at things, making observations, and then just taking a guess. And then, but he's always right because. He's always the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah. And he even said that once.
Yeah.
To the doctor, he's like, "Yeah, and I know you don't like talking to me because doctors always want to think they're the smartest guy in the room, but I'm the smartest guy in the room." But the way he delivers lines is the actor's really good.
Yeah.
He's good at playing this character.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to more episodes of this.
Yes, this should be fun.
And then our third show.
Yes.
The old standby.
Yes.
Nathan's, I don't know, this is one of your favorite shows of all time.
I mean, again, this is one of my favorite. Well, it's an aesthetically pleasing show for a time in history that, like, it makes all this stuff seem sinister and cool at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like, and it was kind of had a weird. This is one of those things where it was sort of put together by a committee of, like, programming executives and a creative guy, where it was basically like, how can we make cops but it looks like something totally modern, like, I
Yeah.
mean, like, ultra, almost futuristic, like,
Mhm.
well, we can set it in Miami and we can have it be, and Miami's like drug central, so we can make them, undercover cops that drive expensive cars and shoot people and seem to have an open-ended budget to buy drugs and arrest and not quite arrest people. Um,
So we're talking about Miami Vice.
yes,
This-
1984's Miami Vice.
Season 1, Episode 1, Brothers Keeper. Original air date, September 16th, 1984 on NBC.
Oh.
This is
The
Miami.
show came on at 10 o'clock at night.
Oh. Well, I guess what? Yeah, watching the show, it seems kind of risque, even though it really isn't. But
Yeah.
it gives off that vibe, though. Like, oh, this is... Miami detective Sonny Crockett reluctantly teams with New York cop Rico Tubbs when both of them end up pursuing a drug dealer who killed their respective partners. Here I have showrunner as Michael Mann, although if you look at the credits, it says created by Anthony Yerkovich.
Yeah, basically, Brandon Tartikoff, who ran NBC at the time, came up. He kind of was working on a concept for a new cop show. It was supposed to be with younger people.
Yeah.
And Anthony Yerkovich was a writer and producer on Hill Street Blues. So it's like, well, you did a successful kind of dark cop show, like set in Chicago or whatever, and so they gave him this one. Now, I think after 6 episodes, he totally turned it over to Michael Mann.
Yes.
So he wasn't.
Well, there's also like a Rolling Stones article I read that was like, basically gives all creative control over to Michael Mann. Like everything went through him, the show, the music, the look of the show, clothes, guns, like all that. They say cars. They basically say that all went through Michael Mann. So that's basically why Michael Mann gets attributed as the creator of Miami Vice and the thing. But I don't know if it's true or not. But that article says that also like. So Michael Mann he was already an executive producer on the show, but he takes over as a showrunner after 6 episodes. But then after the 2nd season, he leaves the show. But
yes,
but yeah, this Michael Mann gets attributed to Miami Vice, probably the closest.
Yeah, I mean, it's the look that was generated, especially after like the first season, when it's like everyone's wearing, like either everything's got a very pale pastel look to it. Again, it makes Miami look like this wonderland of the future. And we have these exotic cars, and it's all kind of based around this fiction of asset forfeiture, which had just come in at the time of the show, which is like that's where they're getting the speedboats, the car.
Yeah.
All this stuff is because they're taking it from drug dealers and they're taking money and using it. And but it's like the place looks beautiful, but it's also this underbelly of crime and incredible violence.
So even though this show is like 36 years old, 37 years old, out of all the shows we watched, this is the biggest best looking and most expensive looking show, even though it probably costs less than those other shows we watched.
Oh yeah.
But at the time this was made, this was an outrageously expensive show. This episode, it's a 2-hour, basically a 2-hour TV movie. So about an hour and a half if you cut out the commercials. It was a $5 million episode. And I'm not sure how much of that was in music, because this has like a motion picture soundtrack to it essentially, and it's a TV show. This thing looks like a movie, and like you think about this show, And like Scarface was just a year before, but this like kind of looks better than Scarface. Like maybe not, because Brian De Palma was great with camera movement and stuff like that. But this looks like more futuristic, and this is a year later. I mean, I don't know. Scarface probably kind of took a place in the late '70s, maybe. I'm not sure, but yeah, this definitely had a look and looked the most expensive and was the most impressive of all the shows we watched.
Well, this like created a kind of an '80s style.
Yeah,
It's like wearing a T-shirt under like an Armani suit, a silk Armani suit jacket. Nobody had done that before Don Johnson. Okay, it was like that was the guy who created it, that look, and yeah, because they would buy suits from like Versace and Boss, and then they have these guys dressed like this. But there was, especially with Don Johnson, there was this weird mix of casual, and because he was wearing like boat shoes with no socks and so it's like people didn't do that before this. And and he had the pet alligator and all those weird affectations.
Oh, this is so I'm not sure how you saw it, but I saw this on the Stars app, and it's given I imagine its original 4:3 presentation. And I've seen widescreen versions of this episode. So I don't know if was yours 4:3 when you saw. I know you had to see it in the weird. So if you look at it, there's a lot of space above people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was shot in just shot in an open frame, but it's meant to be cropped down in like widescreen.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, like all that space above people's heads, well, now shrink it down to widescreen. I think it's kind of like shot with a cinematic presentation, but you have to put it on a TV screen.
Oh, okay.
So I think it was meant to be cropped, but like you have to put this on. You have to put it on television, and television's that time we're 4:3. So
yeah.
And also I didn't. So the opening theme song, the credit sequence theme song, that song is like burned in my mind, and I didn't even know it was Miami Vice.
Oh.
So I started hearing it. It was like, oh that song. I probably just like heard that in the background because like I've never really like sat down and watched Miami Vice like through a season, but like it was like rerun forever, and like I just like it was probably just like on the background throughout my childhood.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the famous intro song, which actually changed over the years.
Oh yeah,
There's like 4 different Miami Vice intro songs. Like that one was only played in this one because it didn't have the guitar hook in it.
Oh,
and then once they went into regular production, they brought in they had the between the guys beating the drums, they had the guitar. Which they didn't have in this, and they also slowed this down quite a bit. But that all disappeared. And then when Dick Wolf took over the intro, it was still always the same intro, but the music sped up and some of the images were shifted around.
Yeah. For some reason, I always remember the flamingos and the guy playing Highlight.
Yep. And the girl in the outfit with the big boobs walking by. They always had a lot of that in this show. There's always a lot of like women with
And I think in this one, like the credits kind of just like roll back into the show where there's like Don Johnson like at a corner and there's some guys like dancing on the street, which I'm not. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. Well, I guess we'll find out. But I'm not sure. Like they didn't really do that in other episodes. They kind of just cut to the television show, right?
Yeah. This one was a little. This was a little different. This was.
I mean, this was long. This was a TV movie basically. So they had
a long pilot.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a proof of concept. Like, oh, can we do this? Yeah. Because Crockett or Tubbs is not as fun in this as he is in like.
Oh, I like when he's doing his like Jamaican character, and there's that part where he's like in the strip club and he's like mouthing the words, the song, and he's just like dancing around with the stripper. It's like that's fun because that was like kind of like what I was surprised about. It's like the actor's Philip Michael Thomas, and like I was kind of like, oh, like I always kind of felt like, everybody knows Don Johnson, but like then nobody else in Miami Vice. But like, no, this guy was great. It's like too bad he wasn't really like I don't know if he was in anything else, but like this kind of seemed to be his one big thing. I know later on we get Edward James Olmos, but like I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, just for Brothers Keeper, it's kind of They're not as
because like when you first see him, he's very serious. You have no idea who he is or even if he's a cop. He's just like a guy with a sawed-off shotgun and like a Lincoln or something in New York, and he's following a guy. And then next time,
I killed his brother.
Yeah, but we don't know that yet. But we presume that. But then we come back from the credits and Don Johnson's talking to Jimmy Smits because they gotta go, set up a drug deal. But the guy is like trying to cut out was it the Colombian? Yeah.
Yeah, he's
trying to Calderon, I think is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's trying to go into business for himself. Then it was interesting. I forgot that. What was his name?
Jimmy Smits.
Yeah, I forgot that Jimmy Smits was in this.
Yeah.
I saw that. I was like, oh, okay. He gets killed by a car bomb. But outside the car, so it was different.
Well, yeah, like that. He's walking over to the car, and Don Johnson clocks the bomb underneath, but it goes off, and he can't like warn him in time. Then it comes back, and it's a voiceover. It's like, yeah, it's C4. It's like, Jesus, the Colombians are getting hold of C4.
Yeah, plastic explosives just invented like 6 years ago. Yeah, it's hard to believe this show's like almost 36 years old.
Yeah,
because it doesn't look like it. This one in particular kind of.
Well, I mean, it's dated, but it doesn't look old.
No, the only thing that's like weird is like, it's like why aren't they calling people? It's like, oh yeah, they don't have that.
Well, he does have his boat phone.
Yeah, he does have boat phones. I think later they get car phones, but they're crazy. Ones where you have to like have the engine running to talk.
Or I like about they're gonna run a trace. He's like, let me get Ma Bell on this, and I was like, I guess I'm old enough to vaguely know who Ma Bell is. Yeah. What was that? What was before they broke it up?
Bell Telephone.
Yeah, but it was like that was before they broke it up, right? It was.
Yeah. I think I forget. Well, I forget when they broke up because Bell still existed. I think it might have served the East Coast on the way down to Florida.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. I thought this was pre-breakup or something.
No, I think they started breaking them up in the late 70s.
Oh, okay.
Because it was when Carter was the only like president that could manage to do that for some reason. I don't know why. I don't want to get political on this show. Yeah, I think it started under Carter, and then it was kind of. I forget when it ended. I don't know much. I don't know. Remember the details.
I'm trying to. What happens next? Well, yeah, this just gives, basically you have Crockett's partner gets killed, and is with his pregnant wife now widowed, and like so that gives him it's like now he really needs to dig down and solve this case. But there's gonna be at some point but then Tubbs shows up and he's like, who's this guy? And he's like and then he finds. Then they have what's he driving? He's like chasing the boat. Is that like a Camaro? Or no, it's like a Firebird or something?
Yeah,
what does he have?
One of those cars. Yeah, Camaro, Firebird, something like that.
Because one of them has a Camaro at some point, and then at some point they switch to the Firebird. Isn't the black one a Firebird?
I think it is.
Then like later seasons, don't they have like Ferraris and Lamborghinis and stuff? They I mean, yeah, like that's the whole thing about like forfeiture and stuff, where they can just have whatever car they want.
Well, interesting production stuff. The Ferraris they were using in the seasons after this, they were actually replicas of Ferrari, and Ferrari sued them and said you can't use our Ferrari on the car. It's like you can't use our name like that. So then they blew up the cars, which they made thing, and then they actually Ferrari donated cars to them because the show is so hugely popular. It's like put real Ferraris on there. Here's one. Actually, we need 5 because they're going to get shot up and we're going to drive the hell out of them. But so yeah, that's as the thing. There's all kinds of like trivia you can look at. It's like. All the cars and guns and boats they used in this, they didn't use in the regular season. They had different stuff. Even for like the episode right after this, everything was different. So.
Yeah.
but that's because they got approval for money because the movie is popular.
Yeah.
And it also gets Crockett and Tubbs together.
Yeah. And then you got the kind of the weird moment where like he goes down to get ice because they punch each other, and that's kind of like their bonding moment where it's like, you went too far, I'm gonna punch you. It's like, that's all right. Like, nah, like I went too far, it's okay. And they punches him back, and it's like, now they're friends. But then he meets Elvis, and that's kind of a comedy moment in the show.
Yeah.
Because that's where he kind of learned. I think that's where he kind of learned. Or maybe it's later on because it's explicitly told, but he's like talking about like it was the Florida University of Florida's mascot, and now it's his pet, and he apparently is also like a drug sniffing alligator or something.
Yeah,
because he like eats the drugs he finds or something. And like, oh, why does he have like a university's pet? It's like, oh, I bet he played football for Florida, and that's later explicitly told.
Yeah.
Because then like Tubbs remembers like, oh yeah, you're the honky that did a 96-yard touchdown. Like, you're a hell of a receiver. Why don't you go to pro? And that's where he says like he did a tour in Nam, and I guess that ruined his NFL career.
Oh, okay.
Because later on, the guy who like betrays them was like his old partner, I guess. But I guess he was also like in Nam with him and took a bullet for him or whatever.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if they really like state that outwards. I think I just kind of like, oh, that's what that's supposed to be. But yeah, they're trying to set up they're trying to catch Calderon, but he like won't meet them in person, and things keep getting going haywire, and like it's like, oh, is our cover blown or not? And then it's like, oh, we got a leak in the department. So then that's the other dilemma that's going on. It's like, oh, bad cops. And then they suspect it's like what they call him a lieutenant, but it's like the head of it's like their boss essentially.
Yeah.
And then it's like his boss is sending his daughter to like an expensive Catholic school. It's like, how can you afford that? It's like, Crockett, if you have any problem, why don't you just ask me where you get the money? He's like, all right, Lou, where are you getting the money from? He's like, none of your business. Yeah. It's like, that's immediately suspicious. But also meant to throw you off.
Yeah, there's always something.
And even though like this like looks big and cool and all that stuff, I would say like the action scenes are necessarily like outrageous. Like they're kind of pretty simple action scenes. Like it's kind of just a shootout or an explosion, but it's nothing too crazy. You know, they're not like shooting Predator or anything.
No, I mean, yeah, in this pilot, no. The show is actually one of its signature pieces is the firepower that goes on regularly. Because
I think I've seen later episodes where it's like they did way more like action stuff. But
oh yeah,
I mean this is in the 80s, but this is a very expensive show. But I don't know. Like one thing I was trying to think of, there were other big 80s action shows. Like I'm trying to think like the A-Team had big action stuff, right? For a television show, did some pretty big stuff.
Yeah, that was always kind of the set piece though. It's like we're gonna have it was like a tricks and traps type episode, or every episode we're gonna like build something to stop the bad guys.
Yeah.
In the A-Team, and we're gonna just we're gonna use fully automatic like assault weapons, and no one's gonna get shot. The bad guys are gonna like fall over, but no one really got shot. They just got scared from the guns. But Miami Vice, when they shoot people, it usually counts. Yeah. I mean, they'll shoot a lot, but because they used a rocket launcher in an episode, and I think Tubbs had a fully automatic like M16 for an episode. And I think a flamethrower came into it at one point. I think it was one of the bad guys.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff I'm missing, but we don't have to recap the whole show. But you get to the moment where you have like probably the most famous episode or the most famous moment of this TV show is when they're just driving the car and it's playing In the Air of the Night.
Yep. Which became the theme for this, show, even though that happened like the last 3 seasons, I think. But yeah, it's what everyone associates it with.
And I think in my head it's a lot bigger moment, and then watching it here, it's like, it's fine.
Yeah.
But also, I think of like '80s anime, and like it kind like they need to do like an animated version of like this scene, because like when in '80s anime they always had a bit where like there's cars driving at night, and the way the light strobes over the car, like that's how I imagined it in my head, and it was that, but it wasn't as like big as I remember it or
Right.
how I've imagined it in my head. But it still is like a huge moment, because like you imagine like this, oh, here's this famous song, here's this cool ass car, here's these guys like contemplating like we're probably gonna die tonight, but and he calls his wife, and it's like, do what we have was real? And it's like, yeah. It's like, what's the problem, Crockett? And it's like, nothing. It's like, oh, he's really gonna go die.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. It was good at building tension. I mean, this is one of those shows that's again, it's style over substance, and it's more fondly remembered than
Yeah.
it is, but it's still
Well,
cool.
oh yeah, it's cool. Yeah, there's like almost like for a police procedural, there's almost no investigation stuff. It's all just big drama, but it's done very well.
Yeah, it looks cool, and there was never anything like this before.
Yeah.
This was that had like modern looking stuff, kind of. I mean, Miami Vice had a look that was unique to Miami Vice. Like it wasn't even really Miami. It was just like, this is the TV show. It's like, and and the amount of drugs and money moving around in this TV show, it's like, oh, this is insane. This is all the money in the world here. These guys are walking around with $200,000 in 1984. Like you could retire with that, back then. But,
Oh, you did have the cross-dressing assassin that was in there.
yeah.
One of their guy. Oh yeah, I like that. There's this guy. They let him go, and then the judge like publicly states like, well, because of the information you gave us, we're gonna let you go, and like that wasn't true at all, and they basically just put a target on this guy's back.
Yeah.
He was extremely mad. He's like, no, put me in jail. I didn't give you anything. But of course he gets killed.
Yeah.
In a very weird where he's like just leaning up against the wall somehow and he falls over. But it ends on yeah, like they catch Calderon. Tubbs is like kind of faced with like, it's like, I should just kill this guy, like it's perfectly in my rights. Yeah, I like how like Crockett comes up and like it's like, don't do it, it's not worth it, man. It's like, well, we know nowadays like all these cops would have just like wrote a report saying
he resisted. I did, yeah, I know that I emptied 7 magazines, but yeah, it was not
and then also before this they catch the informant, which that's his old war buddy and his old partner, and he goes over to his house to confront him, and they basically arrest him, and which is an interesting scene because like the guy just has a bunch of excuses, and it's like, yeah, it's this fun thing where it's like, yeah, the cops only earning $30,000 a year, and like nobody wants their wife to work, and everybody has like 3 kids. It's like,
yeah, it's like, what world is this? I mean, it does make 2021 look like a shithole.
yeah.
It's like, this seems like a cool place, even though you might die, compared to like what we're dealing with today, which is actually a lot better and a lot less violent than back then, but also more depressing in a way. It's like we're kind of trapped in like a boring, slow apocalypse now. But yeah, that's Miami Vice is.
But yeah, they catch Calderon, but then a judge like they're about to like secretly transfer Calderon, but then a judge comes by and lets him out, and then he just like escapes in a plane, and they just like have to let him go. It's like, oh, that's our series long villain. Well, actually, like Crockett makes the statement. It's like, we'll get him. Like he'll be another face or another name, but there's always guys like that, and we'll catch one of them, and it'll basically be that guy. They're all the same.
Yeah, we'll find him.
And Crockett is a New York cop, and but he's also like here under false pretenses. So he's like, I'm gonna get in a shit show at the New York precinct, but then basically at the end they kind of, with a voiceover, they intimate that like he's gonna transfer over to the to the Miami Vice Department.
Yeah.
And of course, that's what happened. So,
Yes, because we wouldn't have a TV show.
yeah. Also, like, especially for the time, this is a very diverse cast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because that was a comment I was going to make about NCIS New Orleans. Like, it takes place in New Orleans, but a lot of the show is white people.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, there is a black victim. CCH Pounder is a black doctor, so she's in, and you got the black musician, but it's like kind of a lot of white people.
Yeah.
But that's the first episode. But and then Mentalist is fairly diverse. They got, but for Miami Vice for its time, it seems pretty progressive for what it's doing. So.
Yeah, well, that's what, like, again, Miami, I'm sure that was deliberate too, because it's very futuristic. Even though the future wasn't the theme of this show, it just had its own thing. And Miami's like that. It's a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Apparently all getting together to sell drugs in the 80s. But yeah, so it was almost seen as like a, I don't know. Yeah, it was like a projection of like, this is what 2000 is going to be like or something. Now all their buildings are just falling into the sand. And this also has there's kind of a stark line here between, like, there's good cops and bad cops, but not necessarily corrupt cops, just dumb cops, which is something that comes up in Miami Vice a lot.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's like they got to bail these guys out because they're
well, there's the one guy's cracking wise at the scene where Jimmy Smits get blown up, and like those are the lugheads we're gonna constantly encounter throughout the series.
It gets dark though.
Okay.
The bad detectives, it gets dark. But yeah, that's for later episodes. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that's established here is it carries in through the season, and that this was an interesting introduction to a show. When you realize that this was the introduction, it's like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. This is kind of like movie-like in a way.
Yeah, it was basically a movie. So
yeah. I enjoyed watching it more than I did like the recent Miami Vice remake. Even though that was kind of cool in its own way.
It had neat stuff, but it wasn't a great movie.
No, the shootouts were amazing. It's like they brought it up to fully modern times. But yeah, this is always a show that I remember fondly. For the reason that it creates its own world that's based on something.
Yeah.
It takes something real concepts, real ideas, and then makes it fantastic in its own way. And it epitomizes the 80s.
Yeah. And like a lot of things like took cues from this. But
yeah.
I mean, you get like the Grand Theft Auto games. You have Vice City. Like it's basically just like Miami Vice, but from the criminal's perspective. And like all styling and music is taken from Miami Vice.
Yeah, and then you got like guys like Kavinsky. Basically, his career, or some of his music was built around the music stylings of this time, and he's driving a Ferrari Testarossa in one of his videos. And what's this called, like Neon Wave? This look now. Oh,
well, crap! What's that called? Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, there's a weird name for it.
Something but it's basically pastels and neon lights.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. It's not Neon Wave. It's something different.
It is something wave, but it's like vapor wave.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's like whenever I see like Vaporwave or Neon Wave or whatever, it's like, that's all Miami Vice, which is cool because that's all young people today, and it's like this still resonates some way.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not like cheering on Edward James Olmos, like, will he ever smile? But
now we get to the Verhoeven effect, where we're going to analyze all the shows at once.
I forgot what I was talking about. No, I'm kidding.
Well, one thing that like every one of these shows has, because it's a procedural, there's a moment where like one of the characters has a personal attachment to the case, and instead of like we instead of going calmly going like we should let other people handle this with a cooler head, in every show the person who's too close to the case gets to solve the case. Because that's just how TV shows work. So,
and almost in a satisfying way, like
Yeah.
for him personally, it's like this isn't how life works, but it's a TV show.
And I do think like a lot of these shows, like I said before, like a lot of shows are built with long runways. Like with The Mentalist, I think we get a lot of different. We used to get a character catharsis with the Patrick Jane character in The Mentalist, but there's still room to like, wow, what's this going? But like we almost have nothing with all the other characters. So, but that I imagine that'll be built later on. NCIS is pretty standard. They just kind of like want the people to be likable. So like, yeah, I want to come back and watch them. Yeah, I like them. I want to watch them solve crimes every week.
Yeah.
But like Miami Vice is pretty complete. Like it's not necessarily building towards a TV show. It's kind of just a movie unto itself, but you could see it being a TV show.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty apparent. So.
Well, and a lot of things in Miami Vice are established by visuals and like style choices and cues, not through dialogue. It's like, oh, we know what this guy is because this is how he dresses, this is how he looks, and then the music. You know, you have when the bad guy appears, it's like, wow, it's like, okay, we know this guy's the bad guy, but and we just kind of take that in.
Yeah, NCIS and The Mentalist don't really have a style, or at least not one that really stands out.
No, I mean they're just well. I mean the NCIS is just a copy of, and I didn't know it was related to JAG. Now you tell me that it's like, oh, the origins of this must go back 20 years or more. But I mean, you know, even NCIS, it's like, yeah, it was my least favorite of everything we sampled, but I enjoyed it. So that was good. I'm trying to find like in The Mentalist, I can. It's like what's the social subtext there? It's like it takes a criminal to catch a criminal.
Yeah,
our society this corrupt, where this angry man with these amazing, this amazingly high IQ and ability to see through things. It's like, yeah, he can lead us forward. You know, this is the hero we need or we deserve. What are they saying? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of. That's the stuff I look for. Like, well, what does this mean, down the road?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to get a lot of that out of NCIS because it just seems like these are boilerplate characters.
I mean, NCIS is definitely like the most built out of like, you can miss an episode of NCIS.
Yeah.
You can come back whenever you want. We're still going to be here. There's not going to be some major arc you're necessarily going to miss. Unless it's like a season finale. Then they'll probably have something like, oh, you missed something last week.
Yeah.
But these are all the pilots. And so we'll see. But we are looking forward to like, what are they going to do?
Yeah. I mean, Miami Vice, I kind of know where it's going to go. But that's... It's
one of the reasons I picked it is like I've never actually just like sat down and watched a season of Miami Vice, but like when I was a kid I saw a lot of like of the reruns, but like there's not really an episode like I have in mind. It's just kind of a vague image of stuff. That's what I don't really know Miami Vice. I just kind of just have through osmosis like know Miami Vice.
Well, see, Miami Vice is the reason. Like, I knew who Hannibal Lecter was, like before Silence of the Lambs came out, because Hannibal Lecter plays a role in Miami Vice.
Oh yeah,
and it hooks up to Manhunter later.
Yeah, that's Michael Mann. So.
Yeah, so it's like, some people say, what's the Michael Mann?
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of like famous Miami Vice episodes that people intimate like, oh, this is just the trial run for other Michael Mann movies.
And it could very well be true.
Yeah, and I don't know if it is or not, but it's like you can find that it's like, oh, this became Heat or this became Collateral, like
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of and it's one we've seen like play out. Like what was the resonance of Miami Vice? For
yeah,
years later, it's like none of these other shows probably going to rise to that occasion.
yeah. Well, I mean that's one of the reasons we choose Miami Vice here is it's kind of like the control group
Yeah,
of a police prison, even though it was like a pretty uncommon. It's still original for what it is, and like not every show at that time was doing this, nor probably could it do it, or it would just be seen as as a copy. It's like you're a pretender.
yeah,
It's also but a very expensive show. So.
yes. I mean, there was also a lot of amazing guest stars on. Like Phil Collins was character in Miami Vice. Like that, he wasn't just providing the music.
Bruce Willis was in an episode.
Yep. So,
I think I saw a thumbnail for the next episode, and I think Ed O'Neill's in it, but I'm not sure.
He might be. Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those shows that like has a lot of cultural resonance.
Yeah, it was a cultural phenomenon. So,
but I'm going to tell you, it's not as deep as people think it is.
Yeah.
More fondly remembered. We're going to find out as we go along. There's going to be like some great stuff, but then there's also going to be a lot of candy, a lot of cotton candy in those pastels.
Yeah, I don't think of our enjoyment of these series. I'm not sure. I don't think NCIS is going to pull ahead of Miami Vice.
Probably not, but that's because Michael Mann. And
yeah,
I've had a soft spot in my heart for him.
But I can see The Mentalist like maybe getting equal with it. I'm not sure. It's the Mentalist. I mean, like neither of us even heard of this show, so we already know it doesn't have the resonance of Miami Vice. But I don't know. I'm very interested in it. So.
Yeah, I did see the thing. Here's what makes a TV show great for Nathan. I don't know about everyone else, but the thing about Miami Vice that's cool and becomes cooler as it moves on is kind of that dark atmosphere. It's like whatever happens, ultimately bad shit is going on. Whatever victory you make over this one Colombian or this wacky drug dealer that you either shoot or put in jail. Oh, there's a truckload of cocaine coming in the truck right behind you. And you're fighting an uphill battle and your life's a wreck.
Also, like the way you're describing like the A-Team, it seemed like there's no consequences. Where here there is.
Yeah. So if a show has like a foreboding undertone and like, oh, there's life and death. I mean, there is because they're not going to kill off the main characters of the network TV show. But the people around them, it's like, oh, I kind of like this girl. She's been around 5 episodes and bang, that happens in Miami Vice. We'll see with The Mentalist where it goes with because it seems like they're talking about serial killers and really smart ones. So, that could get really weird. That could get really dark. I mean, it's kind of been done. It's like everyone, the ultimate psycho serial killer, of course, was like Hannibal Lecter, people like that. That's been done. That's kind of like the apex of that kind of serial killer. Other than they got the Michael Myers walking around with a hatchet type, but those are just more forces of nature than like something you can outthink.
Yeah,
more like Brad Pitt in what's that? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Where he's like the unbreakable character. Like, you're never going to defeat him no matter what you do. No matter who you think you are. Right? Bruce Lee couldn't beat him. The Manson clan couldn't. The girl couldn't. Her head was not going to survive being run into that brick wall 15 times. His wife maybe didn't survive him. He was holding a spear gun. We don't know what happened. But yeah, so those kind of characters are. But then you got the thinking serial killer guys. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to keep it PG-13, so it's not going to be. See, remember his intestines flew out? Like, we're not going to do
that. I think we mentioned the part in The Mentalist. There's a part where he goes up to the bedroom, and there's just a mattress on the ground. Where you imagine, like, well, that's where the bed that where his wife and child were killed, so he just got rid of that. But there's still the like half washed off. Smiley face, red.
Yeah, and the camera, like, because he's sleeping on the floor. The house has no furniture in it. He's got a mattress on the floor, and it's like, oh, this guy's living some weird aesthetic thing. What's the aesthetic? I mean, what's this all about? And the camera pans up to like the smiley face logo on the wall, and it's like, oh, that's just he's going to sleep under that because that's where his wife and kid were murdered, wife and daughter, I believe. And it's like, that was sort of dismal in a way. Again, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
We do have a pecking order here. It's been established in the first episode of most favorite to least favorite. We'll see if it changes. I don't think it's going to.
We're gonna give it the whole season spin. So.
Yeah, we're gonna cover a lot with that. Well, did you have anything else?
I believe that is all the outline has.
Yes, the outline is complete. The work is done.
So for the Verhoeven effect, this is Scotland.
This is Nathan.
And goodbye, America.
Of course.
It's the only catchphrase I have.